parts of the brain that are fragile, and there are different parts of the brain that can be damaged easily. There are different parts of the brains that are important, but there are 4 parts of the brain that are the most important. Parts of the brains is the frontal lobe. It involves in planning, organizing, problem-solving, selective attention, personality, and a variety of higher cognitive functions, including behavior and emotions. Another part of the brain is the temporal lobe. It's a region of the cerebral cortex that is located beneath the sylvian fissure on both cerebral hemispheres. Parts of the brain that are fragile, and there are different parts of the brain that can be damaged easily. Anything could hurt the brain, even things you don't expect. TBI is a major cause of death and disability worldwide, especially in children and young adults. Causes include falls, vehicle accidents, and violence.
The changes that we see when the temporal lobe is injured is that people have problem understanding. There are problems with selective sexuality. A person with a temporal lobe may be found persistently talk, and often the temporal lobe injury is in aggressive. There are problems identifying objects and categorizing. And there are problems recognizing faces and finding objects. Now let's talk a little bit about the parietal lobe. The parietal lobe is an area of the brain that takes into a higher level of function. And as we look at the parietal lobe in this image, we see patients with traumatic brain difficulty naming problems processing tactile sensations, problems processing understanding what the thing is. You see people's academic skill set fall. Things that they were usually able to do in the workplace with confusion between the left and the right. You have a loss of hand-eye coordination and a decreased orientation of where our bodies are in space. Often when I see a client who has damage in the occipital lobe, I see issues of vision defects. There's loss of the visual field. There are problems visually locating objects, and importantly there are problems identifying colors. People can have distorted vision, hallucinations. They can have something called word blindness. There's the inability to perceive the way that objects move, and obviously there are problems with reading and writing, and there's an overall slowed processing of the way that our brains process visual information. We look at the cerebellum, and that's the area here really at the back and the base of the brain and at the top of the spinal column. As we look at the cerebellum and we look at the types of things that our cerebellum does for us each and every day, we see things like the following. We see the control of gross and fine motor coordination. We see all of our voluntary motor coordination. So when we decide we want to reach out and grab a jar off the shelf, we put our arm out and we do that, and that's our cerebellum in action. We have our balance and our equilibrium, the ability to stand up and not fall over, the ability to be able to ride a skateboard, to be able to ride a bicycle, to go for a jog down the block. Our postural control and our eye movements, moving our eyes back and forth, up and down, and utilizing our eyes to obtain visual information so that it can be processed by our brain. We see the damage regulation of our ability to hold our body temperature, to keep it at a healthy temperature as opposed to getting too hot or too cold. We can lose the ability with injury to the brainstem, efficient, effective management of our heart rate, or the rate at which we breathe. People with injuries to their brainstem also experience problems with balance and with their movement. They have problems with swallowing food and liquids, something each of us should be able to take for granted. Brainstem injuries classically can be associated with symptoms of vertigo, where the world spins, and often it's uncontrollable and unfixable. There's dizziness and there's nausea.